Web Novel, Chapter 571, Borrowed Time. Good gods, Freya had seen Lith's creations during Journey's birthday, but back then they were all based on a single element. Something that more or less, she too could do. She waved her hand through the hologram, feeling its warmth and shattering it into stardust. Freya, Lith said. I'm sorry, I was just too curious. It almost looked solid. Was it solid? She didn't sound sorry at all. Her hazel eyes sparkled like during their academy days when she was about to learn one of the marvels magic was capable of. I wish. Do you have any idea how hard it is to create a map? There are hundreds of streets and buildings that I cannot possibly remember. I need to be able to look at the original to keep it stable. The moment your hand covered the map, I've lost both my focus and mana. Lith snarled while creating a second one. He was actually capable of creating a map from scratch, but only if the original was stored inside Solispedia. Sorry, Lith. This time she was sincere. Freya felt stupid for both her action and her words, yet she didn't regret them. For the first time in years, she was having fun. Ever since the academy had ended, her life had been one of duty. First, she had to take care of Kyla. Freya had helped her to retake her 5th year at the White Griffin and overcome the trauma Kyla had suffered after killing Uriel under the influence of Nalir's slave ring. Then, her sisters had left Freya alone to search for their own path in life. After all that had happened to her during the academy, Freya trusted no one and was unable to relax unless when in the safety of her own home. The Crystal Shield Guild was her creature and her cage at the same time. Leading arrogant and disgruntled mages was a full-time job that left her no time for a personal life. Lith was a safe oasis for her. Someone she could trust almost as much as Kyla, but who unlike her sister and guildmates didn't need her protection. Whenever they met, he always had something to teach her about magic, and that was the most precious gift anyone could give her. Don't worry, Lieutenant Yehaval, please this time read me only the addresses of all those who have no role in the city's administration. Lith said while patting Freya's shoulder. That small gesture made Camilla hate her job for the second time in as many days. Hundreds of kilometers in a snowstorm separated them, yet it was being called by her last name that exacerbated the distance between them. For a moment, she envied Freya for her strength, her magic, and because Camilla imagined her free to do what she wanted rather than what she had to. Then, she started listing the addresses and a new pattern appeared on the map. What appeared in front of their eyes was still a mess, but at least it didn't look like a Pollock anymore. They spent a few minutes trying to make sense of the image, but to no avail. If you tilt your head and remove these dots you can almost see a magic circle. Lith said while tapping on several locations on the map. Right idea but wrong dots. If we ignore the dots you proposed, you can see that some of the remaining ones form this array. Freya's slender finger traced a circle above the map. The problem is that you can't ignore any of those points. If all of the locations are magically marked the same way, then they would disrupt the formation. Even if you were right, 2 overlapping arrays would cancel each other without proper insulation. Camilla's words left Freya flabbergasted. How come you were an array expert? She asked. I'm not. I just repeated what Lith and Minoar yelled at each other back in Othar. They quarreled about runes and lines of power so much that I ended up learning a thing or two. Camilla chuckled. Wait a minute, I think you're both right. Check the list more carefully. Solus thought. Sons of a bitch, Lith blurted out as he realized the meaning of her words. Lieutenant Yehaval, please filter the names based on the floor they live on. Like most cities surrounded by walls, Xantia had no choice but to expand vertically rather than horizontally. Most buildings were at least 3-story high. Instead of ignoring the dots, Lith split the map into 3 different layers, each one with its own set of tokens and marked with a different color. Even a layman like Camilla could easily recognize the magic circles formed by connecting the dots. Okay, this is not good, Lith said. I recognize the array on top and the one at the ground level, but I have no idea what the middle one is. The upper circle is a containment array, similar to those I use when I practice forge mastering. Its purpose is to contain great masses of energy and prevent them from escaping. It maximizes the effects of a magical procedure. The bottom one is a grounding array, used to safely disperse mana in case a spell goes out of control. I've already taken a scan of the holographic map and of the 3 arrays. Camilla said. I'll contact immediately General Vorg, the Master Warden, and call you back as soon as I have some answers. Over and out. Lith pulled the curtain covering the window to check the weather. The wind carrying the snow was so strong that he wasn't able to see further than 10 meters even with his enhanced senses. I have no idea where the Awakened could be, and even if I did, I can't risk making a move before I understand what their endgame is. Going to the Church of the Six now would be pointless. The clerics are likely to be unwitting puppets in their hands, so interrogating them would be a waste of time. The ones performing miracles are the awakened ones, but they will not show up without a crowd. Once the storm settles, I need to attend one of their ceremonies. If they made me come here, it means that they are almost done with their preparations. He thought. A bronze coin for your thoughts, Freya said. We're on the clock. The arrays are completed and they felt so confident that one of them attacked me in the open. I don't like that they lured and trapped me here. If I don't get rid of them now, they could find me again. Also, I hate them for using arrays to perform their crap. Whenever I use an array, I can still hear Uriel whining about wardens being useless. Lith replied. His voice went from calm to stone cold when he talked about his enemies and then it became sad while he remembered his lost friend. Me too, I miss him so much. Freya sighed. You know, right after Balcor's attack, when you and Floria started to be all lovey-dovey, he asked me if I was interested in being his friend with benefits. Sounds like you're real. What did you answer him? Lith said with a light smile. I slapped him and said no, of course. I never regretted my choice. I'm only sad that he never got the opportunity to get the happiness he deserved. Chapter 572. Borrowed Time Part 2. Do you mind if I ask you a personal question? Freya said while pouring them some hot tea. No, but I can't guarantee you that I'll answer. Don't worry, I'm not going to pry your wall of secrets. She chuckled. We all knew you had a crush on Nalir and a soft spot for Wainmeyer. I was wondering why you never made a pass at me. Now that we are not young and stupid anymore, I'm not embarrassed to say that it hurt my pride for a bit. Well, it's simple. When we first met, you were just another pompous, stuck-up noble. After the second exam, when we started to become friends, you had already become too similar to me. Lith said. You have always been the most beautiful girl in our class, but I have a thing for cute girls and you have never been cute. You went from obnoxious to dark and gloomy. You and I are like moons. We may shine, but our light is cold and distant. We need a sun, someone willing to walk that distance and accept us for who we are instead of for how we look like. That's why I ended up with Floria first and with Camilla now. Freya had to admit that even if they were good friends, her crazy matched Lith's crazy in all the wrong possible ways. Just the thought of being together with someone more paranoid, grumpy, and aggressive than she was, gave her the creeps. Are you still practicing the impossible arrays Uriel found for us? Lith asked. Every single day. I'll always be grateful to you for teaching me the importance of first magic. There are so many things that I would have missed if I didn't follow your crazy training routine during the 5th year. I may not be able to create holograms yet, but I can assure you that once we find those rogue mages, they are in for more than one nasty surprise. She said with a ferocious grin. Since the snowstorm continued unabated and Camilla had yet to call back, they started exchanging pointers about magic. Freya revealed to him that she had kept in touch with Professor Rudd, the dimensional magic expert of the White Griffin. They were reminiscing together all the cruel words the man had said to his students in general and to them in particular when someone knocked on her door. I'm sorry to disturb you, Lady Ernez. A butler in a white and dark blue livery said her with a deep bow. He was a middle-aged man with receding red hair and the face of someone who had just seen a ghost. There's a guest on the door who claims to be a friend of someone named Scourge. I tried to send him away, but he refused. Some of your men intervened, but I'm afraid they will only make things worse. Did he say his name? Freya and Lith exchanged a quick glance hearing the name magical beasts had bestowed upon him. No, I didn't even ask him about it because he has clearly got the wrong address. Freya didn't let him finish the phrase and opened a warp steps leading to the mansion's hallway. The front door was wide open, letting the freezing wind in as snow started to pile up on the magnificent blue and gold carpet covering the floor. Several members of the Crystal Shield Guild lay on the ground unconscious. Only a few of them had managed to even draw their weapons, but none of them had the time to use them. Not a single drop of blood had been spilled. The man in front of them was a barbarian, at least 2.1 meters, 7 feet, tall. He wore a hunter set of heavy clothes made of warm animal fur and boots bigger than a bucket. His face was rough and savage, with a square jaw and a cleft chin. The hunter's long hair and his well-trimmed beard were flaming red, with not a single snowflake on them. Even though he was lifting one of Freya's men from the neck with a single hand, waiting for him to pass out, his emerald eyes were calm and wise. There was no way Lith wouldn't recognize him, even after all those years. Put Callum down, Freya said while unsheathing her sword. It's good to see you again, Freya, he said with a warm smile as he let the man's feet touch the ground again, allowing him to breathe. You may know me, but I don't know you. What do you want from Lith? She said while never lowering her weapon. A sudden gust of wind swept her hair as a blurry figure moved past Freya and struck the hunter on the side of his jaw with pinpoint accuracy, sending him tumbling outside. You bastard, how dare you to show your face like that? Lith's anger was so great that, without Solis's help, his blue aura would have already filled the manor's hallway. She would have liked to say something, but even though she was already restraining his mana flow, both the lights and the shadows were seconds away from coming to life. Solis couldn't afford to lose her focus. Blood trickled from the hunter's mouth as he stood up. You've gotten stronger, Scourge. I hoped you would rather focus on becoming a better person. Power isn't everything, the man said as if Lith had offered him his hand instead of sending him flying with a punch. 5 years. 5 fucking years without a single word from you. Wind and snow slapped Lith's face. He ignored the former, whereas the heat emanating from his skin was so strong that the latter evaporated on contact. I almost died for you and what did I get in return? You deceived me, you turned the only friend I had ever had against me, you abandoned me, you took away Celia from me. Tell me why I shouldn't kill you on the spot, Lith said. The snow melted and boiled under his feet as the whole street was plunged into darkness, as if the sun had been blotted out of the sky. The hunter stood tall, uncaring of the ongoing unnatural phenomenons and Lith's accusations. You didn't do it for me, but for yourself. What I did, instead, I did it for you. To stop your madness. It was the only way I had to give you a better future and judging from what I've heard, I'd say I succeeded. I never abandoned you. I simply couldn't afford to return and waste our sacrifice. As for Celia, she was never yours to begin with. She followed me of her own will. You were only right about one thing. I owe you. Without your reckless, selfish act one would be dead. I live on borrowed time, your time. My life is yours to take if that's what you truly want. Protector opened his arms in a defenseless position, exposing both his neck and heart. Lith extended his clawed hands toward Protector's chest and hugged him as strong as he could. Soulless analysis, he thought. Protector is barely halfway blue and his physical strength hasn't improved much. She replied as Lith's fury faded. How can you be so weak after all this time? Lith said.